1903, Tibet, 13,000 feet above sea level. A man opens his hand and shows gold. Real coins. The kind that open doors in London, in Calcutta, in every port between them. He has walked 3 weeks through mountain passes where the air tears at the lungs. He needs food. He needs horses. He has money to pay for them. The Tibetan merchant looks at the coins and looks away. Not because they are fake. Not because the price is wrong. Because gold, in this place in 1903, is worth absolutely nothing. The merchant points to what he wants instead. A brick, dark brown, dense, pressed so hard you could knock on it like wood. Made from the cheapest leftovers of a tea harvest, stems, twigs, old leaves swept off the factory floor after the good tea was already gone. The brick bought everything. The gold bought nothing. The British Empire, the most powerful financial force on earth in 1903, cannot buy supplies in a Himalayan village for lack of the right currency. This system functioned for over 1,000 years in a territory larger than all of Europe. And it paid soldiers. It bought war horses that decided the outcome of battles. It moved through Mongolia, Tibet, and Siberia. The Mongol nomads refused silver coins and asked for tea bricks instead. Behind all of it was one organization. It had offices, inspectors, and rules. And anyone who moved tea without its approval paid a price they did not forget. That logic did not disappear. It was rebuilt with different technology. And right now, in 2026, it is being written into the financial architecture of 60 countries at the same time. The first person to feel the full weight of this system was not a merchant. He was a member of the imperial family. In the early years of the Ming Dynasty, the same dynasty that built the Forbidden City and launched the largest naval fleet the world had ever seen, a man who had married into the royal household decided to move tea across the border without government approval. He was not poor. He had connections that most people in China could only imagine. None of that helped him. The Ming legal code, the Da Ming Lu, preserved in historical archives, classified unauthorized movement of border tea as one of the most serious offenses in the empire. The man lost his position, his standing, and everything attached to his name. The imperial record is precise. He did not walk out of that judgment. That is what this system was worth. And everyone inside it knew exactly what the rules were. To understand why the stakes were that high, you need to understand what the tea brick actually was. As a financial instrument, not just a drink. The brick started in a factory. Production was concentrated in 2 provinces, Sichuan, especially the region around Yan, and Yunnan, in the southwest of China. These locations were chosen with precision. They sat at the exact border between the lowlands, where tea grew naturally, and the high plateaus of Tibet and Central Asia, where the climate made cultivation impossible. The people who needed tea most lived in places where they could never produce it themselves. This is what economists call commodity backing, when a currency draws its value from something people genuinely need to survive, rather than from a government promise alone. The tea brick had commodity backing so strong that it kept working even when the governments behind it collapsed. Dynasties fell. Armies crossed borders. The brick held its value because the human need for it stayed constant. A commodity that everyone needs is a powerful thing. For it to function as money, it requires 3 things that any modern central bank would recognize: standardization, verification, and scarcity control. The imperial system built all 3 directly into the object itself. Standardization first. The bricks were pressed in fixed molds, producing a consistent weight, roughly 1.2 kilograms per unit, and a uniform shape. From the factories of Sichuan to the markets of Lhasa and the trading posts of Mongolia, every buyer and seller knew exactly what they were holding. The object itself was the guarantee. Then the scoring. Each brick was pressed with a grid of shallow lines across its surface, deep enough that a section could be snapped off cleanly by hand. It was deliberate monetary design. You could break a brick into halves or quarters on the spot, and each piece carried a proportional value that both sides understood immediately. The Bank of Canada Museum, which holds one of these bricks in its national currency collection, documents this feature precisely, noting that the scoring system was what made the tea brick function as a retail currency rather than a bulk trade commodity alone. It was designed, from the moment it was pressed, to be spent. Verification came next. This is where a compressed block of plant waste becomes the foundation of an empire's monetary system. The Ming government built a network of inspection stations along every major trade route, the piansuo, or control points, whose only job was to check whether the tea passing through carried a valid government certificate. These certificates were issued by the Tea and Horse Bureaus, known as the Chamasi. Without the certificate, the tea was just compressed plant waste. With it, the brick was legal currency, accepted at fixed rates across every territory the empire controlled. Think of this as the imperial version of the SWIFT network, the system that banks use today to verify international transfers. The tea brick moved freely across thousands of kilometers because the certificate told every checkpoint along the way that a recognized authority had already validated it. Remove the certificate, and the transaction stopped cold. This eliminated counterparty risk, the danger that the person on the other side of your deal cannot actually deliver what they promised. A Tibetan chief accepting 20 packets of bricks as payment for horses did not need to trust the merchant standing in front of him. He trusted the stamp. The institution behind the stamp had been operating since 1074. That track record was the security. To feel what this meant in practice, we need to look at the year 1200 on the road between Yan and Kangding. This is a stretch of the Tea Horse Road that journalist Mike Edwards documented in detail for National Geographic in 2003, drawing directly on records from the Song and Ming eras. Picture a porter named Wei. He is somewhere between 30 and 50 years old. Individual names do not survive in these records, but the physical profile is consistent across multiple historical accounts. He carries pressed tea bricks strapped to a wooden frame on his back. The load weighs between 90 and 130 kilograms. That is more than most adult men weigh. He is not carrying this on flat ground. He is climbing passes that reach over 3,000 meters above sea level on stone paths barely wide enough for two people to pass each other. He carries a metal-tipped staff. When he needs to rest, he does not put the load down. Getting back up with 130 kilograms on your back from a seated position is nearly impossible on a mountain path. Instead, he plants the staff behind him, leans back, takes the weight off his legs for 60 seconds, then moves again. The pay rate, documented in Song Dynasty records and analyzed by historian Yang Fuquan in his study of the Tea Horse Road, published by the Silk Road Foundation, was direct. 1 pound of tea delivered earned 1 pound of rice at the destination. No certificate, no payment. Wei had no interest in what the certificate said or who had issued it. He only knew that without it, the bricks on his back were worth nothing when he reached Kangding. He carried the monetary system of an empire on his back. And it worked because every person along the route, the porter, the checkpoint inspector, the merchant in Kangding, the Tibetan chief at the end of the chain, all operated inside the same architecture of verified value. The scarcity layer was the most powerful of all. The government did not just certify the tea. It controlled exactly how much tea could exist in the monetary system at any given time. The Da Ming Lu set fixed annual quotas: 1 million jin of tea from Sichuan, 26,000 jin from the Hanzhong region. 40% of that total was reserved exclusively for the horse barter system, the military exchange that kept the imperial cavalry supplied. The remaining 60% moved through licensed merchant channels, each transaction requiring its own certificate. Farmers could not keep the tea they grew beyond a minimal personal allowance. Every surplus pound passed through the government system. This is financial suppression in its most direct form. when the institution controlling the currency also controls who can access it and in what quantities. The supply of bricks in circulation was not determined by the harvest, it was determined by a bureau. The Chamasi held the power to expand or contract the money supply of an entire region simply by adjusting the quota. A record harvest did not mean more money in circulation. The surplus went into government warehouses. The price stayed stable, the system stayed controlled. This is not primitive barter. This is active monetary sovereignty, the ability of a state to manage the supply and value of its currency as a direct tool of economic and political power. The Chamasi exercised that sovereignty across a territory larger than Western Europe for nearly 500 years. Then, in 1424, the Ming court made a decision that should have ended everything. The official records state the reason clearly. The bureau had grown too corrupt to fix. Inspectors were taking payments to issue certificates without proper verification. The control architecture was breaking down from the inside. The court dissolved the Chamasi entirely. The certificates stopped. The official quotas were suspended. The inspection stations lost their legal authority. The tea kept moving. Not one caravan stopped. Not one Tibetan chief refused a brick. The currency that the Chamasi had created outlived the institution that issued it, and kept functioning for 500 more years without it. Which means the real question was never how the Chamasi built this system. The real question is, who stepped in when the Chamasi closed, and what did they know about money that kept the whole system running? The Chamasi closed its doors in 1424. The monopoly that had controlled the tea brick currency for 350 years was officially over. The tea kept moving, the brick still bought horses, it still paid workers, it still crossed borders between empires. Because its value never came from the government stamp alone. It came from the fact that millions of people needed it every single day in places where they could never produce it themselves. No political decision changes that kind of need overnight. When a system runs that deep, power does not vanish when the institution behind it closes. It shifts, quietly, to whoever is already in position to keep the supply moving. The government that built the system walked away. The system stayed, and someone was ready to pick it up. The people who picked it up were merchants, specifically trading families from the border regions of Shaanxi and Shanxi provinces, families who had spent generations learning the routes, building relationships with Tibetan and Mongolian counterparts, and accumulating the one asset that takes the longest to build: trust earned over time. These were serious operations. The trading houses that dominated the tea economy after 1424, firms like the Dasheng Kui, which by the 18th century ran the largest commercial network in Mongolia from its base in Hohhot, functioned like private central banks. They extended credit to nomadic buyers across seasons. They held deposits of tea bricks on behalf of Tibetan monasteries. They set exchange rates across hundreds of kilometers of trade routes and enforced those rates through agents at every major junction between China and the steppe. This is elite capital management before stock exchanges existed. The Dasheng Kui needed warehouses, trusted agents, and the ability to guarantee delivery across extreme terrain. It had all three. Because it controlled the physical flow of tea bricks across Mongolia, it effectively controlled the money supply of the entire region through logistics rather than decree. The Qing court understood this clearly. The Da Qing Luli, the comprehensive legal code of the dynasty that ruled China from 1644 to 1912, shows a government that spent enormous energy trying to regulate what the private trading houses were doing, precisely because those houses had accumulated a degree of monetary sovereignty that rivaled the state's own. Monetary sovereignty, the ability to determine what functions as money and at what value, had quietly shifted through the slow accumulation of control over a supply chain. To understand exactly how that transfer of power worked, we need to look at one specific moment in 1727. That year, The Russian Empire and the Qing Dynasty signed the Treaty of Kyakhta, a formal agreement creating a permanent trading post on the Mongolian border, where merchants from both empires would meet under official supervision. Two of the most powerful governments on earth shook hands and drew the rules. Then the Dashengquai walked in and ran the game. The trade ledgers from Kyakhta, analyzed by Russian historian I.A. Sokolov in his study of the Kyakhta tea economy, published in Moscow in 2012, tell the real story. Russian merchants arrived with Siberian furs, sable, fox, beaver. The Dashengquai arrived with tea bricks from Sichuan. The price between furs and tea was decided by whoever held more stock at that moment. When the Dashengquai slowed the flow of bricks into Kyakhta, prices moved in their favor. When they released supply, prices adjusted the other way. This is arbitrage, one of the oldest financial moves in existence. It simply means sitting between two groups who each want what the other has, and controlling the terms of the exchange. The Dashengquai did exactly that, at the scale of two empires for over a century. By 1800, the annual value of goods moving through Kyakhta had reached 4.2 million rubles. By 1805, it was 5.7 million, roughly 7% of all Russian foreign trade. The Dashengquai took the system the Chamasi had built and ran it for private gain across 3 centuries. Generation after generation, the firm protected the same thing: the position, the seat at the choke point where all the money had to pass through. That seat was worth more than any coin. Every generation that controlled this system controlled it the same way. Under the Tang Dynasty, power sat with whoever stamped the brick at the imperial factory. Under the Song and Ming, it sat with whoever issued the Chamasi certificate. After 1424, it moved to whoever held the Dashengquai warehouse receipt. When Russia formalized the Kyakhta trade, it shifted again to the bilateral treaty that the trading houses then used to their advantage from the inside. The paperwork changed with every era. The position stayed the same. Think of it this way. The tea bricks started as cheap factory waste, leftover leaves, stems and twigs that the good tea producers had already discarded. The cost to make it was low. But by the time that same brick reached a Mongolian buyer 1,000 kilometers away, its price had multiplied many times over. The buyer paid for access to the system that brought it there. The routes, the certificates, the trusted agents, the guarantees. That gap between what something costs to make and what someone pays to access it, that is where the real money lived. And the people who sat at the center of that gap understood it completely. This is what the records show when you trace this economy across 8 centuries. The object matters less than the certificate. The certificate matters less than whoever issues it, and whoever issues it sets the terms for everyone else. Economists call this power asymmetry, when one side of a transaction controls the rules and the other side simply lives by them. In the tea brick system, that asymmetry ran for 1,000 years across an entire continent. The brick was the same cheap material from beginning to end. The position around it was worth everything. The system had survived dynasties, border wars, and the collapse of 2 official institutions. Then a railway changed everything. In 1880, the first section of the Trans-Siberian Railway entered operation. The journey that had taken 16 months by camel caravan, 50,000 animals crossing frozen steppe in winter columns, now took 7 weeks by train. By 1915, China was exporting 70,297 tons of tea annually to Siberia, documented in the customs records of the Imperial Russian Trade Ministry. The bricks still moved. The camels stayed home. The caravan infrastructure that the Dashengquai had spent 3 centuries building became obsolete in a single generation. The firm kept operating until the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 reorganized the entire region, closed the Kyakhta border market, and replaced the private trading network with state-controlled exchange. The Dashengquai's records, preserved in the Mongolian National Archives in Ulaanbaatar, end abruptly in the early 1920s. The entries simply stop. The routes were gone. The border market was gone. The firm had nowhere left to operate. Once the railway made tea move fast enough that supply flooded every market simultaneously, the premium that had sustained the system for 1,000 years collapsed. The power came from controlling the flow. When the flow became impossible to control, the power went with it. The last camel caravan carrying tea bricks crossed the Mongolian steppe in 1925. The tea brick kept circulating in remote parts of Siberia into the 1940s, confirmed by the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, which holds examples in its monetary collection. 1,000 years after the Tang Dynasty first designed it as money, it was still being used as money. The world changed faster than the object could travel, and that was enough. Now look at what is being built in 2026. The People's Bank of China has been running the largest live deployment of a digital currency in the world since 2020. The ECNY, the digital yuan, has processed hundreds of millions of transactions and is now expanding into payment corridors across Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Most coverage focuses on the technology, the digital wallets, the programmable features. That framing misses the structural point entirely. The ECNY is not interesting because it is digital. It is interesting because of where the verification choke point sits and who controls it. Every ECNY transaction requires validation by a node operated by the People's Bank of China. One institution controls the point where each transaction is confirmed as legitimate. Without that confirmation, the money does not move. The token is not the money. The authorization is the money. Remove the authorization, and the token is worth exactly as much as an uncertified tea brick at a Ming Dynasty checkpoint. Worth nothing. The connection between the Chamasi certificate system and the ECNY runs deeper than a historical curiosity. The two systems share the same control architecture, built 1,000 years apart, operating on identical logic. The Chamasi issued certificates that gave tea bricks their legal status as currency. The People's Bank of China issues validation signals that give ECNY tokens their ability to be spent. Both systems expand into the same geographic corridors: Central Asia, the Silk Road Belt, the border regions between China and its trading partners. Both place the choke point inside a single institution. The technology is new, the control logic is ancient. The Bank for International Settlements reported in 2023 that over 90% of central banks were actively researching or piloting digital currencies. By 2026, more than 60 countries have moved into active deployment. Each one faces the same foundational question that Chamasi faced in 1074. Where does the verification choke point sit, and who controls it? That question determines everything about how a digital currency actually works in practice. How freely money flows between people, how quickly a transaction can be paused, and what conditions a government can program into every unit in circulation. The answer to that question is the real architecture of the system. Everything else is just the interface people see on their phones. The Tibetan merchants who accepted tea bricks in 1903 were thinking about one thing: survival. About food for the winter, about what the next trader coming through the pass would accept in exchange. They were living inside a system built 900 years before they were born, by an institution whose name they had never heard, through an object that felt as natural and permanent as the mountains around them. This is how value works at its deepest level. When a system runs long enough and wide enough, people stop questioning it. They simply use it. The brick is money. Everyone accepts it. And the question of who controls the system, who decides what is valid, what is frozen, what conditions apply, becomes invisible in daily life. Until the day those conditions change. The tea brick was money because one institution decided it was, and built a system that made that decision stick for 1,000 years. The ECNY is money for exactly the same reason. So here is the question worth sitting with. Who issues the certificate? Who controls the node? And what happens to the value in your pocket the day either of those answers changes? If you want to understand how money really works, who builds it, who controls it, and who benefits from it, this channel was made for you. Subscribe to Financial Archaeology. Each episode is an excavation, and each excavation takes you deeper. Next episode, for 3,000 years, across every empire and every financial collapse, 10 assets kept their value while everything around them fell apart. Some of them you already know. At least one of them is already in your life right now, and what it still controls today is worth knowing. 10 assets that survived 3,000 years and still control the world. Every currency in this episode felt permanent to the people using it, every single one. If the app that holds your money stopped working tomorrow, what would you actually have left? Drop your answer below. I read every comment.